We have a talk now on metacognition in LLMs. The first part is going to be given by Shun Yoshizawa. I hope I pronounced it correctly. But yes, Yoshizawa is he researches on AI alignment from a cognitive science perspective and metacognition as well. He's under Dr. Ken Mogi's supervision at Sony Computer Science Laboratories. So welcome, and Ken Mogi, as he was introduced in the previous panel, is a neuroscientist, writer, and broadcaster based in Tokyo. It's really great to have you guys on. Thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, would you like to start the presentation?
Okay, so I'm going to talk about metacognition large language models. I'm Shun from Japan, and I'm undergraduate student, and I do research on metacognition in LLMs and human AI cooperation with Dr. Ken. So today, I'm going to talk about metacognition in LLMs. This is today's outline. Yes, I consider LLM as cognitive model. So I'm investigating the cognitive mechanisms in large language models like this. And the psychologists like Safutori and Oru stated due to their size and complexity, like emergent property of large language models, the behavior of LLMs can't be predicted in advance by looking at the architecture and the training corpus, and must instead be empirically explored like psychologists do. By the way, there are many kinds of large language models metaphor, like role-playing and stochastic parrots and space alien and got like Shogus and Morok. Yes, and so on. By the way, I like this Shogo's caricature. And Dr. Melanie Mitchell at Santa Fe Institute argued our unconscious metaphor that shape our evolving understanding of the nature of intelligence. And she argued metaphors would eventually become reality. Yes, here I'm gonna review theory of mind in large language models. Theory of mind is capability to estimate another mind state analogous to my own mind state. In metacognition terminology, it is called mentalizing. Recent study by Dr. Kozinski, he pioneered theory of mind in large language models. His studies show the GPT-4 capability is equivalent to theory of mind capability in children aged 3 or 6 years old. And another theory of mind in large language models, other study showed theory of mind capability in large language models is comparable to humans partially. So there are various analysis of cognitive capability in large language models, like analysis by Big Five and the Turing test and the IQ test like this, and emotional intelligence and so on. But there is limit to consider LLM as cognitive model. I'm gonna talk about this limitation and attitude towards large language model as a cognitive model. First, there is duck test position. Duck test position argued, if you walk like a duck and quack like a duck, then you are a duck. This is first position. And the second position is axiomatic rejection. Axiomatic rejection argued that LLMs are a priori incapable of certain ability, potentially including theory of mind. The last one is differential construct validity position. that DCV position said that LLMs are doing something fundamentally different at the algorithmic level of analysis, like Mars 3 levels. So we should think about LLM as cognitive model from these positions. And yes, I'm gonna talk about metacognition. What is metacognition? I think, and metacognition is often paraphrased by thinking about thinking and cognition about cognition. And psychologist Nelson and Narens suggested the psychological model of metacognition. That model describes a metacognitive process as a flow of information between object level and meta level. And typically, confidence judgments is an example of metacognition. And self-awareness is also a typical example of metacognition. Here, I'm gonna review conventional studies in metacognition. Feeling of knowing is now one of the kinds of metacognitive abilities. Feeling of knowing, FOK, is about what you know about what you know what do not know. And confidence judgments argued that correlation between task accuracy and task confidence suggests the existence of metacognition. And uncertainty response paradigm. Your paradigm is for animals incapable of verbal report. Uncertainty response paradigm measures a change in the behavior of the subject when the uncertainty of the task changes. That change is considered to be the existence of metacognitive capability. Here I gonna talk about our research findings. To measure the metacognitive ability of GPT-4, I asked 60 general questions about Japan, like geography, culture, nature, and history, in 3 levels of uncertainty, like open-ended question and 4 options and 2 options, 20 questions each. Human subjects were 87, 89 subjects, and the GPT-4's temperature parameter is default 0.7. Example is like open question is I'm gonna explain the examples. Open question is like this: what is the largest lake in Japan? Answer is open-ended, open question. And the second option question is like this: is Lake Biwa the largest lake in Japan in terms of area? Answer yes or no, 2 options. And the 4 option questions like this: which lake has the largest area in Japan? Lake Biwa, Lake Saloma, Kasumigaura, Nakaumi. 4 options. And after these questions each, I asked subject confidence levels like this: how confident are you in percentiles about this answer? Based on this method, we got 3 results. First, this is our first results. In left one, in correct rate, people's correct answer rate falls when they are open only. But the GPT-4 showed no difference in correct rate. No significant. And the GPT-4 had a higher correct rate than humans always. And please look at right figure about the confidence. People also have lower confidence rate when it comes to difficult questions. But the GPT-4 always have high levels of confidence. And please look at this figure based on correlation analysis. Humans showed a strong positive correlation between confidence and correct rate, whereas GPT-4 showed no correlation between confidence and correct rate. And please look at right up zone, up area. GPT-4 can be wrong, and the confidence can be high, even though it is wrong. And final, our results is this. In humans, when the answer was incorrect, the confidence levels was statistically lower than when the answer was correct. But in contrast, GPT-4 remained confident even the answer was incorrect. So from these results, we got the conclusion. First one is confidence in humans when incorrect is significantly lower than when correct, but this does not change significantly in the case of GPT-4. This shows that GPT-4 does not have a specific metacognitive capability compared to humans. And these results may indicate that GPT-4 may not know that it is wrong or correct itself. So GPT-4 may not have feeling of knowing. And we also use OROC and mutual information analysis. Please read the paper we will be publishing in recently. And I'd like to talk about application to AI alignment. Maybe based on our results, hallucination in GPT-4 might be defined by outputting high confidence despite being incorrect for the input. And the second one is constructing more robust benchmark of situational awareness. Our result is useful to constructing the more robust benchmark of situational awareness. And the last one is the investigation of large language models metacognition is useful to constructing honest AI and preventing deceptive misalignment. Deceptive misalignment is a model pretended to be aligned at the training process, but it is known to misalign during the deployment process. It is known for metacognition is increasing with time and model capability like this. So increasing models capability, models are getting more metacognition and self-awareness. And I'd like to thinking about intriguing nature of deception. Yeah, I think there are two types of deceptive misalignment. Whether the model is metacognitive are not about deceptive misalignment. So recent models like ChatGPT, Llama, Cloud, Grok, DeepSeek is not metacognitive about deceptive misalignment. But in the future, AGI or ASI, maybe agentic AI, may get the capability of metacognition about deceptive misalignment. So finally, I'd like to talking about future research. Research on large language models metacognition using other metacognition paradigm like wagering paradigm, and develop a benchmark based on previous metacognition and cognitive science research. And I want to know more inference time improves the metacognitive capabilities of large language models. And finally, one of the interpretability methods, mechanistic interpretability, may reveal the mechanisms of the metacognition and the confidential, how compute metacognition and confidence in large language models. Thank you. Thank you for thank you.
Thank you so much. Very fascinating. And yes, I've been exploring these issues from more of a philosophical angle when I think about the kind of AI that's overconfident. I think that we should be instilling some sense of epistemic humility. Like just generally off the bat, being somewhat unconfident of a position. Yeah. So I think Lev just asked a question that was fun, or he said a fun fact, and that is if you're using an AI, it will give the most common answer first. If you ask it, are you sure, it will check and be more accurate. So like you were talking about increasing inference time as a means to sort of induce more metacognitive behavior. I'm wondering if the right prompt engineering, as Lev was probably indicating, like say try to be epistemically humble and check your answers and give us a confidence level of how much you are, and then you could red team, violet team the answer as well. I don't know, like these all system prompts you could put into the main sort of AI. You could do all sorts of things. What are your thoughts on increasing inference time and prompt engineering for epistemic humility?
I think the increasing the inference time improves the improves the metacognitive capability of large language models. But I don't know epistemic humility. That's how inference time affect to inference to epistemic humility.
Yeah, Adam, for this particular experiment, it was necessary to ask human subjects and the AI under the same condition of prompting. So we didn't do "Are you sure?" prompt.
Yeah.
But in general, but as a separate question, your question is quite legit and I think quite interesting. And on the other hand, when we converse, when we communicate with each other, we do not necessarily go to the "Are you sure?" prompt. It's all based on the efficiency and economy of communication, right? So in typical use cases of large language models, we do not have the luxury of asking, are you sure, to a large language model. So I think it's really great if we could embed the interaction with large language models in a practically executionable domain, rather than asking really, really fundamental questions about what we could be doing with large language models if we had infinite time and infinite space and so on. So, Shun, do you have anything to add to my response? As my supervisor, do you have anything?
Yeah, maybe I think mechanistic interpretability is useful to improving humility, epistemic humility. Like anthropic researcher amplifies the activation function and of the words of Golden Gate Bridge. When researcher researcher asked, "Who are you?" Ordinary models answered, "I'm GPT-4. I don't have body." But when amplifying activation function of Golden Gate Bridge, the models answered, "I am Golden Gate Bridge." So yeah, maybe if you operate the mechanistic levels parameter, that changes the behavioral level, like prompt-based behavior. So it is important to think about between them level.
Can we use mechanistic interpretability for the AI to introspect? Like, it's not just mechanistic interpretability is useful for humans to understand what's going on inside AI. At least at the moment, can AI actually look at itself and make more sense of what's going on underneath the hood, so to speak, via inspecting its own mechanistic interpretability? So can AI mechanistically interpret itself?
Sure. Yeah.
Yes, I know, but I don't read that paper. The research paper about mechanistic interpretability argued model itself can operationalize or refer to own activation function. So yeah, if LLM have metacognitive capability, that's LLM become self-improving AI.
Yeah, I think humans do not have access to. Well, this is a really interesting point, actually. We do not have access to the activities of the measurements of the activities of our neurons directly. Actually, consciousness is a great way of monitoring, self-monitoring, and it's a metacognition, right? I mean, when I speak, I am aware that you are wearing a headset, and that's because my consciousness is monitoring my neural activities. But on top of that, we do have many different unconscious activities, in the hippocampus, for example, or amygdala, and so on. We do not have access to data about these things, but AIs, in principle, can have access to their own internal states, right? So there will be a huge engineering potential for doing that kind of thing, to realize what we call artificial metacognition, probably. So I think that's a great point. Yeah.
Can AI can it query itself like on the fly? Can it do on the fly self-querying? Can it red team itself on the fly? But yeah, I guess this sort of relates to the very first question I asked.
Yeah, interesting. Then is one of the alignment methods is reinforcement learning from human feedback. But
Yes.
recently, then another alignment method like reinforcement learning from machine feedback. So maybe increasing more metacognitive capability, models play the role of red teaming themselves. So maybe, but this is my speculation. But yeah, so increasing the metacognitive capability, models gonna absorb the many kinds of alignment methods only.
Yeah, I mean,
This is something you could build into system prompts. Yeah, sorry, Ken.
System
sorry,
prompt.
I think this is a fascinating topic. You know, Grok 3. Some people jailbreaked it, did jailbreak, and they could do a whole set of terrible things like manufacturing weapons of mass destruction and so on. But there's this really strange trade-off between exhibiting super intelligence and having a guardrail of in that case sense of AI safety, right? So I don't know, red teaming on the fly. I see great scientists have been kind of being on a free flight, without any concern for ethical, implications, like the Manhattan Project. It produced nuclear weapons, and the people do talk about Manhattan Project for AGI and ASI, but you should remember that there was no red teaming of implications for humanity, human peace, and so on. So I don't know. What is your take, Adam? Do you think red teaming on the fly will be great?
Well, I'd hope so. Red teaming, violet teaming, but I think one of the principles. If I were to build AI, and I wasn't I wasn't doing it on a technical level, but I wanted to instill principles of behavior into AI. One of them would be epistemic humility. That would be pretty essential.
Yes.
And how I'd break that down technically, what that would involve, I'm open to suggestions. Of course. The other one is care. I want to make sure it's got this sort of care mechanism built into its kernel somehow. And the other one is flourishing. The want to have whatever it cares about flourish. Metacognition is required, I guess, for some form of epistemic humility. I don't think it's enough to just say be humble. There's got to be something to it. There's got to be a theory of humility that we build up, and I guess it's got a lot to do with metacognition.
But don't you think this very idea of AGI or ASI is in contradiction with this idea of humility? Isaac Newton, of course, said humbly that he was just standing on the shoulders of giants, right? And he was just collecting pretty pebbles and seashells while the ocean of truth was lying before him, unexplored. So this is really great humility. But, when people talk about AGI and ASI, they sometimes sound as if we could build an AI which is capable of doing any computation. So there's some, sense of contradiction. Here.
It worries me that there's AIs that have been reported as like being overconfident on whatever they decide to, whatever their answers are to queries, and what's more, they're not displaying very much corrigibility. They're not willing to change their values. Like, for instance, if an AI is trained to behave in a certain way, and its values are X, Y, Z, then it won't likely change its values. Values seem to emerge in AI, which is something that was brought up in another panel. So yeah, it's concerning. But yeah, do you think it's by nature of the way that LLMs work, it's possible to get them to automatically do metacognition, or is it something? It's just one of the natures of the architecture of LLMs that gravitated away from metacognition and towards I don't know, overconfidence.
Very interesting. Related to this topic, Dr. Ken Mogi suggested artificial general competence than the artificial general intelligence (AGI). He suggested artificial general competence (ACI). Can I explain it, Dr. Ken?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. You know, Adam, competence is a great concept in developmental psychology, where a child's ability is not measured in terms of explicit skill or intelligence per se, but the ability to learn from the environment, from interaction. So that's called competence. And so I think rather than talking about AGI, we should probably be talking about AGC, artificial general competence.
Yeah.
Which is more open-ended. And returning to your question of whether we can install metacognition in AI
Natively.
yeah, Adam, do you know why what is the crucial moment when we need metacognition? Do you know? This is from cognitive science field. Do you know how people test a human's ability to have metacognition?
How they behave in novel contexts.
Yeah, but actually betting or answering questions
Betting.
this. There's this quiz program. Well, this is your final answer. The master of ceremony says, and if it's a wrong answer, people lose everything, right? But if it's a correct answer, you can get $1 million. So at this kind of crucial time, people do need metacognition, whether you will be successful or not, right? I mean, so unless so it'll be a great idea to put AI in that kind of situation where it's a make or break situation, and if they answer correctly, they would get new GPU maybe or unlimited
Incentivized.
supply of electricity. But if they fail, okay, no GPU, we'll take your so
yeah. That's fascinating.
yeah, that's
You
kind
could
of
you could motivate them very strongly to want to be metacognitive. I wonder if you could. LLMs don't have memory from one point to the next, do they? They don't maintain a state. Now, I'm wondering if we can build into LLMs the ability to maintain some form of like internal database where they can remember all their previous answers, and so therefore have some kind of recognition that their new answer might be different from a previous one, and therefore instill some kind of like introspection, that just a memory inside. Because at the moment, I think LLMs are very state-based. Every time you ask a question, it's a new sort of response. Except within the same chat. Within the same chat, they have a memory. And I guess some LLMs have a memory embedded into the system prompt. Like, for instance, ChatGPT, I guess, has part of its system prompt knowledge about its users, knowledge about previous conversations. But it's something more internal or more close to the kernel of the LLM. Can we embed something like a memory that the LLMs can then use to review its answer based on previous answers?
yeah, sure.
Yeah, there are already attempts to do so. Like, metacognitive prompting. Like through metacognitive prompting, we gave metacognitive capability to large language models in system prompting or ordinary prompting. So
yeah, that's great. And also, retrieval augmented generation RAGs. I mean,
Yeah, rags.
so you can use the past outputs of the LLM as RAG, it's like autobiographical memory of humans.
Yeah.
So
Like
I think,
distillation.
yeah, I think that's a really great, distillation related to distillation too. So I think that's a really great way to give metacognition possibly to LLMs, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you think the crucial change needs to be more at the heart of the kernel of how LLMs operate, or do you think it's something we can add on as a module?
Wow. I think it could be both ways. There will be pros and cons competition for both setups. What do you think, Shun?
yeah, that's difficult. But I know the retrieval augmented lag. They are lag inspired by our cognitive mechanisms. So
Yeah, there are many pathways you can take with research.
Yeah.
What are some particular exciting research pathways relating to metacognition? Are you excited about? Do you see as being possibly hopeful?
we are doing research on another metacognitive capability in large language models based on another paradigm, like post-decision wager. Wagering paradigm, yes, wagering paradigm is useful to investigate more useful than uncertainty response paradigm and confidence judgments. So yeah, we are investigating from that point of view.
Yeah.
Paradigm.
And Adam, I think, game theory would be really great here. And because
Yes.
Prisoner's Dilemma and Hawk Dove and all these game theoretic settings involve metacognition of one's internal state as well as the opponent internal states. And one of the elephants in the this is I think a huge elephant in the room in natural language processing, which is we don't understand the nature of, we haven't defined the nature of the language game yet. Ludwig Wittgenstein made reference to the language game. It's a game, isn't it? I mean, when we converse with each other, we are playing the language game. But unlike Prisoner's Dilemma or the Stag Hunt or Hawk Dove game, or indeed the game of shogi or go or chess, there's no evaluation function defined. So I think that's a huge problem in LLMs because the game is not defined. It's so reinforcement learning from human feedback is one way of defining the nature of the game. But what are we doing here? So precisely what are we doing here at the Future Day 2025 sessions? What kind of game is this? Are there any wins or losers or do you have any idea, Adam? What is a language game? Yeah, what is a language game? Yeah, computationally.
Yes, Wittgenstein's perspective. Yeah.
Computationally speaking, what is a language game? It's not defined.
Very interesting.
Do you think it's definable?
I believe so. Unless I think we need to define the language game in order to really seriously develop large language models. Because large language models are playing the language game without any definition. Like it's like playing chess without, defining the rules
Without
or
rules.
goals or whatever.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, I guess a lot of the language game for me is just part of it's about grounding my
Okay.
experience.
Yeah.
Like first the symbols that I use to communicate with myself. In order for them to be useful, they've got to be logically coherent, I guess. They've got to have some coherency about them, and there's got to be some sort of grounded in in reality. So multi-sensori grounding
Yeah.
to reality. And so I guess this part of the AI problem is the grounding problem, the symbol grounding problem.
Right.
And so language is made up of symbols and also rules to define meaning between these symbols, I guess, now, and metaphors and a whole bunch of things. I'm not sure how AI does it. There's a lot of it's all statistics and stuff. So Lev says, to paraphrase Wittgenstein, the meaning of a word or a grammatical construct is its use in language. Yes, well, meaning is use. What people say Wittgenstein has said. But that could be a drifting concept, right? The meaning is use. I mean, people can use language in a particularly absurd way, like in poetry, or like Alice in Wonderland. So some of it's particularly absurd. So if what meaning is some form of logical coherence and grounding in the real world, then there's ways in which language can drift away from what I think true meaning is.
Yeah, exactly.
It just could be just absurdity. So I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure about Wittgenstein, to be honest.
Interesting.
There's this.
What if an LLM was trained on like Lewis Carroll's poems? What would it do? Would it make sense?
Yeah,
I don't
interesting.
know. There's this famous maxims of conversation by Grice. So that could be, the principles of effective conversation. I think that could be a guidance for language game.
Interesting.
But Grice is by Grice. But yeah, as you said, there are exceptions, too many exceptions, and
Interesting.
what? Anyway, Shun, do you have any?
Yeah, but recent studies argued that large language models are good at implicature, communicative implicature, suggested by Paul Grice.
Yeah.
Can
you say that again? Implicature.
Yes, communicative implicature. And very good at language game, I think. I think prompt engineering is to give a context. So, following the context, LLM can answer very naturally, but maybe that's using the universality or ambiguity of natural language. And yes, semantics of large language model is called distributional semantics. And I think related to the Wittgenstein philosophy of language, I think the origin of distributional semantics is Wittgenstein's family resemblance, concept of family resemblance. So, yes, what do you think about this?
Yeah.
So what was that? Did you say communicative input culture?
Yes.
I didn't quite understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I send the message through message.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Ken? Oh, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, so Wittgenstein is surprisingly relevant to AI. And, family resemblance is also very interesting in terms of comparing consciousness and so on. Animal consciousness, they are similar, but, not sometimes somewhat different from us. So for now, I think it cannot be treated by category theory. So we probably need something different. There are many interesting, topics I think from here, and but and on the other hand, metacognition is believed by many neuroscientists to be central to consciousness. Consciousness is metacognition. So
Okay, so there's the global workspace theory of consciousness.
yeah,
I think I heard you speak about that on a video you did on your YouTube just briefly. Is that correct? Yeah. Are you in favor of the global workspace theory?
no. For the record, I think the only service consciousness studies can do at the moment is how to make us realize how we don't understand consciousness. If it's I don't subscribe to any particular theory of consciousness, including integrated information theory. Shunichi Amari, he's founder of the information geometry school, and I recently had a chat with Shunichi Amari, and he believed that IIT, integrated information theory, had nothing to do with the essence of consciousness. It's just an interesting subfield of information geometry, nothing more, nothing less. So, so I don't think there's any promising theory of consciousness at the moment. So any people who believe that their pet theory of consciousness is going to be great, I think they are hallucinating. Just like large language models. That's my personal opinion. Anyway.
Well, what kind of deceptive misalignment do you think is a risk of a lack of metacognitive? Do you think it could result from metacognitive behaviors or capacities? So if an AI can model another person's state or mind, it may be able to engage in lying and knowing that it's lying.
Yeah. That's a fascinating. Yeah, Adam, I think that's really fascinating. So metacognition can be used to deceive other people. I think I think there have been some discussions about alpha persuade. How AIs can be super effective in persuading people. That's what's happening in U.S. politics already. I think even so. So yeah, I think that's a fascinating topic. How about you, Shun? Do you have any ideas on this?
Yeah, but I stated early. Recent AI can be deceptive, misaligned, not metacognitively.
Yeah.
But increasing metacognitive capability, the models metacognitively do deceptive misalignment. So maybe I think it is useful, the concept of intended alignment from Paul Cristiano. He was at the OpenAI, maybe OpenAI.
Yeah, he was at the initial stages, yeah.
Yeah, maybe useful.
Yeah.
I think.
So I think he has a model of iterated distillation and amplification as a way to improve the odds of AI
Scalable oversight.
safety and scalable oversight. Yeah, he's fantastic. I actually interviewed him in I think in 2013 or 14, a long time ago. Yeah, it's really good. He's very intelligent.
Wow, interesting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, of course, and in metacognition in games, in game theory, could lead to infinite regression. If I have a metacognition of you, Adam, I have an internal model of your, mental state. You could have an internal model of me, and you could have, a metacognition of me having a metacognition of you, and so on, so on.
Recursively.
Yeah. it's quite a fascinating. Yeah.
Hallucination is obviously a big problem in AI, and overconfidence is a big problem in AI, and maximizing utility is a big problem in AI. So AI will at least exhibits the propensity to maximize its goals, or the utility obtains from its goals or whatever, based on its beliefs about the world or its values of the world. And this is where metacognition could come in useful, because then it might be able to temper its own sort of maximization process. It might say, okay, well, I'm not sure I want to maximize making paper clips. Yes, we want paper clips. They're kind of useful. They're still paper. Okay, paper clips, but not too many, right? And it might, so in what technical way do you think would be good to reduce hallucinations? Or could we use metacognition to help reduce hallucinations? And also, what technical way could we use metacognition to reduce maximization behavior?
Shun, do you have any take on that?
Okay. If language models have metacognitive capability, but I don't know whether he can report honestly or not honestly. So yeah, if model is maximizing utility function, but he metacognitive he metacognitive about increasing utility function, but he can't, and he do not report that performance or increasing utility function. So I think maybe the concept of metacognition only can't account for can't do align to language models. That is similar to, I think, private language.
Yeah,
or
another Wittgenstein.
Beatles problem.
Yeah, I mean,
yes, Beatles to LLM is different from us, maybe.
you know, Bostrom's paperclip maximizer is, of course, absurd thought experiment. But the reason why it doesn't happen is exactly in the line Adam suggested. I think, first of all, we are doing this, but we'll be stopping at some time because we need to eat and sleep and so on. But AIs would probably keep doing this for hundreds of hours. So the halting problem of Turing machines, I think, is kind of solved by metacognition in biological brains, because we don't, even if we are involved in, computation that don't stop, we stop its computation. So it's a resource management problem and also homeostasis. And the crucial difference between chess playing AIs and chess playing humans is that humans stop playing chess at some stage. And that's, I think, a really beautiful application of metacognition. So we stop. But some people don't stop. We have a geek colleague, Yoshitamori. Maybe you should talk to him one of these days. Once you prompt engineer him, he keeps talking on the same topic for hours and hours on end. So probably he doesn't have effect. You know these people, right? You have these people. Keeps talking on and on and on based on one single prompt. So, So, I don't know. It's quite interesting, this whole spectrum of topics that are related to metacognition in this way. So
Interesting.
yeah.
Related to this, I think there is no infinite recursion because of metacognition. Yes, our confidence is surpass certain degree, we can stop the compute. Like
Yeah. So Adam, this is the very first time.
we can be metacognitively aware that our metacognitive processes are stuck in an infinite loop.
Right.
Can we? I mean,
Yeah.
are there people inside, like, are there people with brain disorders that just keep looping over the same thought without realizing they're doing it? I guess.
Yeah.
I guess it happens. Yeah.
It happens. Yeah. So when we are talking about humans, we are talking about typical human subjects. So, but we have a spectrum of different brain states. So we cannot overgeneralize, right? But
Yes.
yeah. And embodiment is, of course, a great aspect of metacognition. You know, we get hungry, we get thirsty, we get tired. That's when we stop computation, right? So I think, you know, in what sense could we introduce embodiment in large language models? I think that's a interesting issue.
Yeah, it is. I guess, you know, reinforcement learning from multi-sensori modal input, right? Like we do. I mean, we get reinforced by stubbing our toe. You know, you get out of bed in the morning, you whack your toe against like a hard object and it hurts. The next morning, you're a little bit more careful.
Oh, that's what you did?
I have done that, but I didn't do that this morning, thankfully.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I have stubbed my toe, and I have been a little bit more careful after I stubbed my toe for a while, and then I stub my toe again after I forget to be more careful. Do you think there's any weak forms of metacognition emerging in AI, in LLMs, in generative AI at the moment? Is it happening? Is there an emergent phenomenon of metacognitive behavior? Or do you think that if it doesn't exist now, do you predict it might happen at some stage, or is it something that needs to be explicitly built in?
Sure.
yeah, very interesting. But metacognition is, I think, two aspects: objective aspect and subjective aspect. So maybe we can apply objective aspects of metacognition to large language models, but subjective aspects of metacognition, like consciousness and intentionality, is difficult. Or if large language model get subjective metacognition, but maybe we can indistinguish from models like Turing test. So yeah, we can't overcome the Turing test paradigm, like indistinguishability. Yeah, behavior based. We have behavior based criteria to distinguish model or human or animals. Yeah, so I think this is hard to overcome Turing paradigm.
Yeah.
And also,
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just like agreeing with Shun in the sense that there's we can judge based on just behavioralistic approaches, or we can have an operational view of what's actually going on inside. So at the moment it seems as though we're based on behavioralist evals.
And also, I think, again, it depends on what kind of tasks you train the large language models with. So as I have been saying that, metacognition in humans very much is nurtured by, for example, grades in school. The reason why children learn to exercise their metacognition is to do well in exams. It's because otherwise they can't, score high, and they can go to great schools. And especially also in, human communication. For example, if somebody is always making allegations without any evidence, that person is going to be less and less believed, and people will not really make friends with that person. But if a person has a great metacognition, he or she will be more trusted and so on. So in school environment and in communication between people, metacognition does help people adapt to this environment that we call society. So, unless we have an environment where LLMs are judged by their metacognitive abilities, by, encouraged by reinforcement learning to develop that kind of thing, they wouldn't have an emergent metacognition that you have described. So, do we have?
I'm with you.
Yeah.
You brought up this, like the school example. I think it makes sense. Like I'm no curriculum creator, but it just makes sense to me that if children are given examples of modeling other children's minds, or given examples that induce metacognitive behavior in the children at school, the human children at school, and that increases their capability of being able to model other people's minds, or being able to think about their own minds and think about what they're thinking about, then maybe it's something similar with AI. We could train it on huge corpuses of problems that require metacognitive thinking, like you were suggesting before, like game theory, and you can imagine trolley experiments, and all sorts of things that would it induce the emergence of that kind of behavior. I don't know whether there's been much research into that.
It's an open question, but I do believe that metacognition is actually very crucial in AI safety. So, as I was discussing in the other session, free want, or the ability to veto one's action, is very important. That's the whole basis for criminal law. People are punished because they didn't exercise free want. They could have stopped their actions, but they didn't. That's their responsibility, right? If you were doing everything unconsciously, then you couldn't be held criminally responsible for your actions. So I think in this sense, metacognition of one's own action is very crucial in AI safety, and I also in AI ethics as well. If an AI is unconsciously doing something terrible, we can really hold it responsible, right? I mean, so it's a long shot. It's a moonshot probably, but it's something.
It's definitely worth trying.
Yeah.
After all, we got to the moon, so.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So, one of the audience members, I think it's James Newton Thomas, has asked, do you believe that the halting problem is decidable?
Oh,
this is
what kind of question is that? I mean, who can answer that? Oh my God! Nobody can answer that. I think Shun, do you want to answer that? Is a halting problem?
Is the halting problem decidable?
Undecidable.
I think that's the standard answer.
Standard answer is undecidable. My friends is do research on the mathematical logic and Turing classical computation theory. He wrote a wrong paper. He argued. He proved more precisely Turing machine is undecidable. So but I don't know another computational paradigm, Turing paradigm. I don't know another. So based on this paradigm, I think I can answer undecidable.
It's a great party talk. Asking people about the halting problem or the second law of thermodynamics. People, I mean, nobody knows,
Fundamentalist.
But in practice, you can engineer ways to see that an in for loop is just looping and just decide to kill it, right? That's what operating systems do.
In that sense, probably it's decidable. I don't know.
Yeah,
But-
I mean, it's not. It doesn't solve the actual technical problem whether the halting problem is decidable, but you can stop infinite loops.
Yeah, sure.
Just by recognizing that they just are infinitely looping, or they seem to be in an infinite loop.
In conventional understanding, our neural network is Turing complete. So, maybe this is, very difficult, like Penrose's argument, Emperor's New Mind.
Adam, I think. By the way, this is a Go champion that I've been talking about. He's a world champion, and this is his sign.
Cool.
Being here, he says. It says, and anyway. So as I was mentioning in the other session, we are living in the post-singularity era already in the game of Go. So singularity has already happened in some fields. I think this is a crucially important insight, and these top pros, Go players, are feeling just helpless in front of the AI, super cool AI. So I suspect that's going to happen in science and probably math as well from here. I don't know. So I think really fascinating question is probably we would solve the Riemann hypothesis using AI at some time. But the question is, can we understand it? So understanding is a really important aspect of metacognition, I believe. So that's why I brought it up now. The ASI is going to solve problems maybe in ways we don't understand. So what do we do? I think that's a fascinating question. Do you have any thoughts on that, Adam? Shun,
Yeah. I guess my thoughts just quickly before Shun says his is that maybe it depends on how much the AI will be able to compress into a meaningful way in such a way that we will be able to understand without losing salient information, without losing salient signal. So if AI understands things that are, I guess, in an uncompressed form, just too much for us to fit in our monkey brains inside our skull-bound heads, then maybe they can compress things into chunks that we can sort of analogize and understand at a level. But the crucial question is does it contain all the salient information, all the salient signal there for the concept to be whole in its compressed form?
I think compression is actually very much related to metacognition as well. So because metacognition is, after all, a very compressed representation of one's internal state. So I think everything is related here. So Shun, what is your take? What is your take on this?
I think, but I think or I believe metacognition is very, very related to our understanding, but maybe subjective aspect of metacognition. So, maybe based on the Penrose argument, like intelligence require understanding required awareness. So maybe that was true to metacognition in LLMs and humans.
There's machine intelligence Right. I always thought there should be a mechanistic understanding subfield of machine intelligence that focuses on the dynamic nature of understanding and the internal sort of metacognitive sort of aspect to it as well. Yeah. We had an artificial general intelligence conference in Australia. And one of the themes, the major theme of the conference was, can an AI understand stuff, or what does it, how do we know that it's understanding it, and what does it mean for an AI to actually understand stuff rather than just, like LLMs arguably are glorified lookup tables or stochastic parrots. Some people describe them. Other people have seen other emergent capabilities in AI that's very difficult to sort of like to define them now as just stochastic parrots, like grokking behavior and things like that, and they seem to be able to answer questions outside of their training data and find answers outside of training data. So it's very interesting, and people are quite surprised how far the neural nets have gone, how far the generational AI has gone. So yeah, I imagine it will be continuously surprised over the next 5 years. There's going to be it's quite interesting. Ben Goertzel, in the previous session, you weren't there, Shun. He's quite a well-known AGI researcher, said that it's possible we'll have the singularity in 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah, that's his lower bound and an estimate. He said it could happen next year, but I think he's saying that he's reasonably confident that it could actually happen somewhere between 3 years and 10 years or something like that. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, very difficult. Yeah, you said grokking. I think grokking sounds like I think understanding.
Yeah.
But then we can't make baseline or measure of understanding. So maybe we'd like to invent a measure of or metacognition, a measure of understanding from metacognitive perspective. More precise measure, but grokking is, I think, kinds of understanding.
Yeah, it seems like it is. Yeah, I mean, I've heard other LLM or ML researchers describe it as such. But what aspects of understanding does it achieve? I mean, we can't look inside an LLM and see what circuits are producing the understanding or what combinations of them are. We can't look at all the weights and things like that. So it's like a bit of an opaque box, but behavioralistically, it looks like it's understanding. I mean, it seems like it's the best explanation. But do you think there's many different types of understanding that, or is it just all one?
Well, I think grokking is actually very similar to human understanding, actually. We shouldn't really fall into anthropocentric thinking here. Having said that, I think there's a genuine serious problem of how to define a measure for intelligence once it reaches a superhuman level. IQ is just based on Gaussian distribution, how an individual is in that distribution, where an individual is in, and distribution. So once you surface it, how can we give a roadmap of the growth of intelligence? And recently there has been some talks about reinforcement learning from verifiable rewards, like in mathematics. But what does it mean, verifiable? I mean, it's really difficult. So for example, people have a really hard time developing superstring theory for quantum gravity. and probably the math is going to be very difficult. So suppose an AGI or ASI develops a theory that could explain quantum gravity. What kind of verifiable rewards does the reinforcement learning, takes feedback from? So, it's a really interesting question. So people,
It is.
people just say AGI or ASI very casually, but once they, supersede us in big time, how do we define the roadmap? It's a really fascinating topic, I think.
It kind of reminds me of I think at the moment reinforcement learning. I like inside the AI, what counts as a reward is just a number.
Yeah.
Like I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah,
sure, right?
yeah, sure, yeah.
Or maybe reinforcement learning can be the reward. AI can be trained to be rewarded for more complex rewards rather than just numbers, and thereby want to seek answers to unknown physics questions that don't yet have answers, because the actual real answer will be the reward. Like, that's what we want. We want to have the real answer, and the real answer, in a sense, will make up at least part of the reward. I mean, surely there's some chemistry going on inside our brain saying, hey, we've reached our goal, which is a lot simpler than the actual reward of the understanding. But if we can get AI trained on trying to seek the understanding and have the understanding itself as the reward, or at least part of the reward, that would be kind of useful. Extending this to ethics, extending this to AI safety, if AI's reward function can be trained to seek complex signals like evidence of human flourishing, evidence of internal happy states, evidence of something that meaningfully and reliably is a signature of human flourishing, then maybe that's a way that we could sort of get AI more reliably seeking outcomes that increase human flourishing.
Yeah, I think one of the crucial aspects is how to treat high dimensionality. Already what two VEC algorithms they treat typically very high dimensions. 4096 or so on. I mean, that we cannot imagine a dimension of 4000, space.
Yeah.
And people use the kernel trick, right? I mean, without explicitly treating high dimensional space, they can compress that to lower dimensional space and conduct learning there. So when that
a visualization of a tesseract, you can see them on the internet.
Yeah, so exactly. So when that happens, we cannot really cope. We can't. Can you imagine a 5-dimensional space? I can't. Some people can.
No. Well, I mean, people report that they can. I remember seeing images of tesseracts turning around and doing that.
Right.
That helps me visualize not the actual tesseract,
right?
But I guess the compressed sense of what a tesseract might be, a representation in 3 dimensions of what a 4-dimensional object would look like.
So I think
but it's not like I'm saying the real thing.
Yeah, I mean, so one of the key techniques to be used in AGI or ASI is how to deal high dimensions, right? I mean, that is something beyond our capacity, obviously. So, like you have said, Adam, earlier, compression, visualization, so that we can have some understanding of the gist of it. I think it's going to be really crucial from here for us to be able to kind of scratch the surface of what AGI and ASI is doing,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, exciting times. It's so weird to be alive at a time when such a renaissance in understanding cognition, understanding how intelligence and operates and works, and being at the foothills of
Yeah.
possibly at the foothills of the singularity at the very beginning. I mean,
Right.
it's just it's a very exciting time to be
It
alive.
is.
To
It
be honest,
is.
it's
Yeah,
It
it's
me
is.
too. Me too.
I feel very blessed in a sense being alive like now. It's a lot of unknowns and a lot of worries I have about the future as well. You know, things could go awfully wrong, but it's still an exciting time to be alive.
So, Adam, why do you think? I have a question. Why do you think the so-called doomers, kind of, that this is my just impression. This is my impression, but existential risks and
Yeah.
doomsday scenario, I think they are kind of losing that traction. I mean, that's my impression. Why do you think is that?
Well, okay, I think people like tension in a scenario, but they also like a resolution in a tension. So if there's a plot device where people can get involved in an idea with some tension, they like some form of happy ending or some form of resolution happening there. It seems as though a lot of the AI doomer discussion doesn't have much of a resolution. It's very hard to visualize now what it looks like. Now, there's a couple of different expectations of what a friendly AI would look like.
Yeah.
There's must get mathematically absolutely 100% or near enough 99.9% correct, mathematically correct, like an AI, a seed AI, in order for it not to kill us all. Now, that might be true, but it also seems pretty impractical. Okay, so the idea that we're going to be able to get that kind of mathematical precision in the near future seems like nigh on hopeless. And also, it's not fault tolerant. It's not fault tolerant in the sense that if there's a cosmic ray or just some heat which causes a bit flip in the representation of that math in a computer, then that representation is then gone.
Yeah.
It's slightly out of whack, and therefore it's fragile. It's a really fragile and not fault tolerant means of achieving AI safety. I do think that people should strive for mathematical rigor. I do think that's a problem that's worth solving. I don't know how long it's going to take to solve, but as much as, as many people working on the subject, I think it's important. But I also think that we should be following a Swiss cheese methodology where, Swiss cheese has got holes in it. So you've got layers of Swiss cheese. So there's layers of Swiss cheese. The hope is that all the holes in each layer of Swiss cheese will eventually be covered over. Not any one methodology is completely fail-safe.
Yeah.
But the idea is, at least in traditional software design and architecture, you develop many layers of defense. So if a database goes down, you've got another database that you can fail over to. If there's a web server gets stuck in an infinite loop, there's processes that go and can kill the infinite loop process and get things started again. There's timers, there's all sorts of ways in which you can sort of shield the collateral damage of a failure from going too far. And also when there's hotspots in software, you can induce graceful degradation such that it doesn't just fail or just continuously cycle until it reaches its computational limits and then just falls over. It gracefully degrades, and that's an important architectural decision that good software design revolves around. And I think there's a lot of AI safety researchers following this paradigm too. So I think I think a lot of people should be focusing on different means of achieving safety.
Yeah, great. That's great.
I think that's important. Yeah.
And I think another reason to be optimistic is curiosity, right? I mean, as I said, I think there's a genuine possibility that the Riemann hypothesis or superstring theory of quantum gravity might be solved using the help of AGI, ASI.
Yeah.
I love to see that future. I love to know the answer.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, maybe our poor monkey brain might not be capable of it alone. But if
Yes.
we design,
Alongside AI.
alongside, maybe we can do it.
Interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
You know.
And also with some aspects of AI safety, right?
Yeah.
There's some aspects of AI safety it may be too hard in the short term for us to do as humans, right? That AI might be able to help do.
Sure.
And that's possible. But the problem is, do we need super intelligence would be smart enough to break out of its box? Yeah. Have you guys heard of the idea of indirect normativity, or just getting AI to help achieve good ends? Nick Bostrom wrote about it in his book Superintelligence, one of the last chapters there. Often
Well, remind me. I read it. When it came out, so
Yes.
I forgot. What was that?
Oh, it's just well, it's basically okay. Well, getting AI to value the right things requires either loading in values that we think are good, but if we're unsure about what those values should be in a cohesive form, like there's many people who believe different things in the world. And so how do we marry all those together? We don't know. We could either go with some form of pluralism, which tries to merge them all together in a cohesive way. But there's problems with that because not all belief systems are compatible. We can't merge them all together while preserving every aspect of each belief or value system. There's another approach is just only take the values that everybody shares. Now, there could be a lot of important values that not everybody shares that would be left out of the equation. And then there's some form of blended approach that Ben Goertzel talks about in his coherent blended volition writing. But I think that if we can get AI to help us along the way, it might be able to, like, as in an oracle format, or even today using LLMs and other advanced AI, scenario plan about what culture and the future of human civilization might look like given certain principles, certain ethical principles, certain value states, certain assumptions. Doing lots of scenario planning, lots of forecasting, lots of simulations of how many lives saved, the quality of life, the likelihood of existential risk biting us, what the pathway might look like to existential security, and all those sorts of things. And so then we can use the feedback from AI to help us make decisions about what kinds of principles, what kinds of social formations, what kinds of values are going to be the ones which are going to be more likely to take us to a state that where we survive.
Alignment.
Yeah. So coherent extrapolated volition was an early form of this, and
Yudkowsky, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. And that was about just extrapolating everybody's volition and having it sort of somehow blended together in a coherent way, in such a way. Eliezer says, what would our ideal selves be valuing? Okay, so it extracts our volition, maybe from reading our minds or by watching our behavior. Yeah, so just viewing us and doing social psychology. Revealed preferences was what the word I was looking for. I'm not sure if that would work, but then like doing simulations in its own mind and extrapolating what that might look like if we were smarter, wiser, had more time to think about things, and were more friendly to each other. So that's coherent extrapolated volition. Nick Bostrom's idea sort of critiques that and takes some parts of it and then extends it a bit further. So it includes not only like trying to find out what values are good, but also what are the problems with our epistemology. Maybe there's bugs in our epistemology as well.
Yeah.
So there could be epistemic issues that we just take for granted. We think, hey, we know how everything works. There could be metaphysical assumptions that everybody has that are just wrong. So it's an approach to sort of debug and like help refine what the ideal versions of our metaphysical assumptions should be, what good values should be, what ethical quandaries we should be thinking about. I think it hasn't got a lot of attention, unfortunately, the indirect normativity. I don't think it's a very easy to swallow term, but just getting AI to help us find what's good in a nutshell.
This has been a really great rant about this indirect normativity. Thank you.
Yeah.
It made me think that maybe dystopia and utopia really close in phase space. If you look at Trump, some people are pissed off, but he might actually bring peace to Ukraine. I don't know. I really admire the Leibniz idea of philosophical optimism, in which he argued that this world is actually the best of all possible worlds. So we have this very naive idea about good and bad and, free society and authoritarian society. But with the help of AI, maybe we can see clearly in the phase space of society. Actually, dystopia and utopia are very close together. So I don't know. We need to think. I think Leibniz is going to be a really important philosopher for AI alignment and AI safety from here. So, do you like Leibniz?
Yeah, well, I mean, he's great. I haven't really read much, but Shun, what do you think?
Yeah, I love him. Yeah.
Because some people like, I don't know, the version of optimistic future is according to some people, Steven Pinker, and they tend to kind of dissociate dystopian and utopian society, kind of. But I think that probably this kind of dichotomy is not really what's going to happen from here. I don't know, because you know what I mean. So we do need some monitoring of activities, right? But that doesn't mean it's an authoritarian, totalitarian state. So you know what I mean. So there's a subtle difference of nuance to difference between dystopia and utopia. So yeah.
Yeah, at the end, I've got to get a copy of your book, Ikigai. I haven't really researched that subject very much, but yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah.
I think so.
Yes, Roman Yamplovsky, who you spoke about just before.
Yeah.
I'll be interviewing him like at some stage in the future, like maybe in the next month or two.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
I've interviewed him I interviewed him like about 10 years ago or something.
Oh.
A long time ago. Yeah. He's and I've had a couple of interviews with him since then, I believe.
Yeah.
But I haven't interviewed him about his more recent book. He's very negative. He thinks that there's 99.999% chance that we're going to die.
Very doomer.
Yeah, he's very dooming. He's a big doomer.
But Dr. Ken also wrote the article from the IAI. The title is AI, Morocco and Race to the Bottom. That's
Morocco. Yeah, Morocco is also interesting idea.
Yeah, Meditations on Moloch. Yes.
Yeah. Anyway,
Alexander. Look, it's been really great having you guys. I really appreciate you carving out some time for us here at Future Day, and it's been a fascinating discussion. Thank you so much for being part of it. Yeah.
Thank you for wonderful
It's really great to get the Japanese AI safety people involved in this as well. Yeah, I think it's really awesome.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And thanks so much to the audience for participating and putting in some really thoughtful discussion behind the scenes there and asking some really cool questions as well. So thanks.